Dr. Garrison didn't tell you, but my background in the agricultural land grant type system is I have a bachelor's degree in home economics specializing in dietetics. And after working in a hospital for a summer and watching what went on, I decided, well, I'll get my master's in human nutrition, and what goes in does come out, and we analyze it all. I moved across campus to food science, and I became a food scientist. And working in academia, I was in research and extension roles when I was in academia, and I specialized in the seafood industry. In the food industry proper, what I did was technical support, and I would be in Hormel this week, Tyson next week, Kraft the following week, fixing problems, and then when they were trying to make the technical sale, help with that. And what that really did was it made me work across all food products because we sold commodity ingredients that are used in about everything. And this made me very well qualified for this job because if I could tell you with whom I just sat down with for 2 hours, it was a restaurant chain where they need our help. And we're going to help them specialize, and this is part of the role of what an extension does. They're going to develop their own HACCP plans throughout their chain because they want to assure food safety. In dealing with the extension roles, we also deal with state laws, federal laws. And in state laws, they're not always the same as federal law. They cannot supersede, but they can have certain requirements. Recently, Louisiana legislature mandated that HACCP, Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point, be put in place for a HACCP-like system in all food processing in Louisiana. This is not required on a federal level yet. So therefore, we're working with these companies get together a HACCP or HACCP-like plan if they don't have one. Another requirement of state law is if they use vacuum packaging in any part of their food processing, they must have a HACCP plan. Sous vide, does anyone know what that means?
Say it again.
Sous vide? That is a special type of vacuum packaged low temperature cooking. It tenderizes meat products. That's used in restaurant situations. That's why you get such tender, delectable meats. They have a HACCP plan. They're told you have 30 days. And we had one very big restaurateur in the state say, I literally haven't slept for 10 days because I'm so scared I'm going to kill someone now. And they weren't going to do it. But we put together the HACCP plan. We went to see their kitchen. They were doing everything right. But they had to put it on paper and keep records. That's part of what we do as extension. I've also taught with Dr. David Bankston, and we always bring in Food and Drug Administration officials to come teach with us. Seafood HACCP, that is a federal requirement where anyone processing seafood in the state must have a HACCP plan. What did HACCP originate from? Actually, it was a General Foods program. General Foods was absorbed years ago into other companies for food safety, and it was actually adopted for NASA. Because you can't have astronauts out in outer space getting sick in space. So it's a way to look for hazards and prevent them from occurring in the food processing sector. Having a plan, keeping records, documenting, and validating. So we teach seafood HACCP, and since I've been here, we've taught about 156 different students food HACCP. And there's also an underlying part of HACCP which is mandated, and that's monitoring the 8 essential steps of sanitation. We teach a sanitation course as well, because when most companies get into trouble, what is the first thing that they trip over? It's sanitation, and it's not something where you'd be terrified of eating their food. It's the little things. So we teach sanitation, we teach HACCP, we're looking at food safety. The Food Modernization Act that was just passed 2 years ago is going to trigger that we teach more food safety to a broader array of individuals. Ergo, I think why we're seeing more restaurant chains coming to us now. Another part of what Extension does, and Sea Grant is a part of my appointment. I'm the seafood specialist for the state. What did that really start meaning? April of 2010, we had the explosion. We had, unfortunately, 11 people die. We had 4.6 1.9 million barrels of oil go into the Gulf, and we had a massive closure of over 88,000 square miles of federal waters and pretty much almost all of state waters. We had to then start reassuring people about what was the impact of that oil on the fish, what was the impact on the dispersant to people and on the seafood. And DOS, dioctyl sulfosuccinate, was the active agent in that dispersant. Can it be used in food? Is it legally used in foods? Anyone know? Does anyone care? Actually, it's a legally approved food additive, and it can be used in beverage preparations. It can be used in non-carbonated chocolate beverages. Chocolate milk. It's food grade, and food grade was the quality that was sprayed into the Gulf. I gave over 70 different media interviews during the oil spill and up until last fall on this particular topic. I was on the radio, gave other newspaper interviews, was quoted, and probably, I wish my parents were alive because they'd really have been proud. I was invited to come speak on that at the Smithsonian Institution. And on that panel was Jane Luchenko, the Director of National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, Donald Bosch, who was on the Presidential Commission for the oil spill. We had two processors, one from Louisiana, Motivated Seafood, and another one from Texas. And then we had Ted Danson because the Friends of the Smithsonian wanted him there. And they parked Ted in between Don Bosch of the University of Maryland and me. And we had a very, very cordial time. And we had 675 people in the audience. And if you'd like to see this, I'll be happy to send the link to Dr. Garrison so that you could watch it. But we work with our seafood processors. Whenever they have a problem, they'll call us. We'll go in there, we'll do inspections of their facility, tell them where we think they could improve things. We work with them for product development, if they want to develop a new product, or if they have a processing problem. And something that if they're using certain ingredients, I can give them tips on which ingredients might function differently or better. They have to have nutrition labeling. I'll assist them with, if there's the top 20 seafood species most commonly consumed, FDA has those values published for the nutrition fact panel that goes into the seafood panel, then retail part. If they don't, we'll work with them to help them develop a nutrition panel. We help them develop the packaging for their retail products because there are very specific requirements. Also, I do research, and I do research in concert with other faculty, and then part of my role in extension is to take all that scientific jargon and put it into something the common consumer can understand, because extension means getting the word out. We can do a lot of fancy things in the university, but if nobody understands what we're doing and why it's important, it doesn't really mean a lot. That's, in a nutshell, what we do in extension. Sea Grant program, it's 27 colleges around the nation, and it includes Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin. Why? And New York? They border on the Great Lakes, and New York also on the Atlantic Ocean. Any questions?
So some of the Sea Grant agents are not seafood people, like the coastal people.
We have, within the Sea Grant system, we have the coastal people, the marshland grasses, we have fishery biologists, we have water quality specialists, we have economics people that do an excellent job. You know, the oil spill, who do you think is going to be called into court to say, was it really this much dollar damage? The economists are going to be put really the fire underneath them right now, and I don't envy that role whatsoever. We also have legal people within Sea Grant, because you're hearing it now, there's been in the press quite a bit on Delcom Direct marketing of seafood so that it can be more personalized, boat to plate.
Okay, any other questions for Dr. Lempeeler? All right, well, thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
We have a cup and water bottle for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's very nice. Thank you.
I'll see you soon.
Okay, if you have any questions, you can email me.
Okay, our next speaker is Dr. Lammy Keith, And Dr. Amy Keith is the division head in human nutrition and food. And she's the Alma Beth Clark Professor of Nutrition. She also is an adjunct professor at Pennington Biomedical Research Center. And you might recall that I mentioned last week we are going to be touring Pennington on April 20th. She's also a retired professor, which is Professor Emeritus at University of Connecticut in Stores. She has devoted over 2 decades to research in maternal and fetal nutrition with an emphasis on lipids and N3 fatty acids. She has been recognized by the American Dietetics Association Foundation with the Ross Award in Women's Health and awarded excellent in dietetics research. Her research findings have been published in several journals, including the American Journal of Chemical Nutrition, the Journal of the American Dietetics Association, Lipids, and the Journal of Pediatric Gastroenterology and Nutrition. She's co-editor for the Handbook of Nutrition and Pregnancy of the Nutrition and Health series published by Humana Press. And she has been a PI, principal investigator is what PI means, or co-investigator with research support from USDA, National Institutes of Health, aka NIH, and numerous foundation boards, institutes, or industry. So we are very fortunate here at LSU to have Dr. Amy Keith with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garrison.
And you have a
Thank you. And I'll just say, following up on Dr. Lampia, you mentioned the University of Connecticut, and that's a Sea Grant institution also, so I just wanted to mention that. So I think we're okay with this.
Okay, where did we go? Bianca, you want to, it takes a little while for it to load. Okay. Okay. I'll turn off the front spanker lights. Okay.
So I'm really pleased to be here to address you, and I always like to have a few pictures. And I just want to say that when you think about nutrition or the discipline of nutrition, we're really a profession that's looking at how foods can improve health and wellness. And that, in a nutshell, describes who we are. Okay? So today, I want to tell you something about functional foods. If you watch TV or read magazines, you probably have seen that term before. And I've done some work with a functional food, so I want to reacquaint you with what functional foods are and tell you something about the research that I have done. Faculty in academic departments here at LSU, most of us have split appointments. We teach in the classroom. We also have responsibilities for raising money to support research that we conduct. We refer to that as our scholarly work. And as Dr. Garrison indicated, the population that I tend to work with are pregnant women and looking at the maternal, fetal, or infant health as it is affected by nutrition. So how do we define functional foods? They are foods that provide health benefits beyond meeting required nutrients. We'll come back to that. They go beyond correcting diseases caused by nutrient deficiencies. And from the Institute of Medicine, we have here a thought on them. It encompasses potentially helpful products, including any modified food or ingredient that may provide health benefit beyond the traditional nutrients it contains. So we'll come back to that. The functional food industry is a really big business, and it's predicted that by 2015, that market is expected to reach close to $9 billion in sales, or 1/3 of the world market. That's, the U.S. will have 1/3 of the market, at about $9 billion. Okay. We can think of functional foods in many different ways. Functional foods may be traditional foods that we modify in some way, add something to them, or they may be naturally grown foods. And I have a combination of foods here with some chemical glassware that you might recognize, because again, they may be the red onion that is grown and harvested and marketed and consumed by you, but they may also be foods that have been modified in some way. And I'm showing here grapes, red grapes, green grapes, scarlet, can all be referred to as functional foods. The strawberry, many of you, if you drive up Perkins Avenue, may have noticed that Pennington has been advertising for subjects for a blueberry study to look at the health benefits of consuming blueberries. Blueberries are considered a functional food. And here they are. Ginger may be considered a functional food. And here we have some foods that, I think all of these are foods that have been modified. Something's been added to them. If you eat breakfast cereals, if you look at the packaging these days, you may see that calcium has been added to some of our breakfast cereals. And we have other examples here. So functional foods are in the market, and I think it's difficult for any of us on a daily basis to go from one day to the next without consuming some functional foods. So I've been interested in the fats that are contained in fish, cold water marine fish, omega-3 fatty acids, and those have been considered a functional ingredient. We don't have an RDA for them or a recommended daily requirement for them. And the omega-3s are touted as promoting heart health and improving brain and nervous system function. So I want to tell you, just take a couple of minutes to describe to you a project, a study that I have done looking at omega-3s, and here you see what you might consider a cereal bar, something similar to what you could buy in the market. And this functional food was created for the study that we conducted, and it contains those omega-3 fatty acids from cold water marine fish. And if you look here, you'll see that if you just consider this DHA as omega-3 fatty acids, you can see that good sources of these are herring, salmon, mackerel, tuna, etc. So if you're going to have a diet that contains those are the fish that you would, naturally occurring fish that you would consume. That omega-3 fatty acid, we know, is essential for fetal and infant development. It's needed for development of the eye, and it's also needed for the brain to develop and to maintain the central nervous system. Okay. So just in brief to describe to you the study that we have conducted and that we continue to build on, we recruited pregnant women for a study. We asked them to consume this functional food that I just showed you that contains that omega-3 fatty acid, and we wanted to test how the infants did after birth. Okay? And what we found was that those infants had better vision at 4 months, and at 9 months they had better problem solving. And I just want to show you what we did. I'm going to show you some of our subjects. What we did was we would go into the home, and we would, to test how they problem solved, we brought a bag of toys into the home, and we let the 9-month-old find the toy that they wanted to play with, and we let them play with it, and then we showed them that if that toy was put out of their reach, that in order to let's see how we start, yeah, out of their reach to get it on a cloth, that they had to pull that cloth to get the toy. And then the next step we did was we covered that toy and showed them that it was under there, and the test was for them to pull the cloth, uncover the toy, and retrieve it. And let me show you what difference having that omega-3 fatty acid in the diet of the mothers during pregnancy did for those infants. The volume's not turned up here, but she is vocalizing. And this little girl was an infant that was born to a woman who was in a group that had that omega-3 fatty acid. This little girl was in the group of mothers who were not supplemented. Okay? So we demonstrated that having that functional food in the diet during pregnancy had a health benefit for the infants after they were born. And so that's where I want to close, and I'll answer questions about functional foods.
Just like you're asking, how do you know it's proving that they're like, was that supposed to prove that they're intelligent? Or like that they can grasp what they're trying to do better?
Well, when you look at those kinds of things, I worked with a biobehavioral psychologist on this, and there are other studies that have been done to look at children at older ages to see how they perform in school and all. We don't usually talk about intelligence. We're measuring a very specific ability here in terms of they had to be able to remember how to get at that toy. So in the end, one could say a combination of these different functions may contribute to what is measured in intelligence, but that's not what we were testing.
Okay.
But that's
I'm just thinking like the kid's probably like, oh, I don't want this toy anymore, let me throw it on the ground.
Well, no, the toy they had was the toy they wanted to play with. We would go into the home, they were acclimated with the toy, they found the toy they wanted to play with. We didn't take it away from them right away. They played with it, so it was the toy that they wanted. Yeah.
But those are all, one of the things we're working on this semester is asking the right questions for critical thinking, and those are excellent questions.
It is an excellent question.
And probably if you were a yes, Chris. And probably if you were a reviewer for a journal article, you might suggest what are some alternative hypotheses. But and we do the best we can when we conduct scientific research. And I have yet to be, first of all, soapbox aside, science is done by humans, therefore science is never perfect.
So what I would say is when I'm trained as a biochemist and a nutritionist, when I do work like that, I partnered with a biobehavioral psychologist. The person who helped us with that precise exercise is a psychologist in Dundee, Scotland. And so it's someone that I meet at meetings, and we had a hotline to him in Dundee, Scotland in terms of how we would assess, because you saw the picture, but we don't just look at the picture. We recorded what was happening, and then scorers would go back and look at the tapes and look for specific things and give scores to different activities that were going on there, different steps.
Is this particular, I'm sure there's probably multiple journals in your handbook, but this particular research is published several places?
This work on the problem solving was published in, I'm trying to think where this one was published. I think the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition.
We'll send you that link, how's that?
The work on the eye, where they saw better, was published in Lipids, and the work on, I showed a sleeping baby, we assess sleep in those infants, and that's just come out in early development.
Great, we'll get those links on Noodle.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, I have a toy for you today, Dr. Landry.
You can do it. I love toys.
It's an adult toy. It's called a water bottle. So let's thank her. The next two presenters have something in common with y'all, okay? And that is that they've known me in several roles, but the role that, I don't know if they know me best, but one of the roles they know me in is that I served on both of their master's committees. And so y'all can change war stories later. But, so y'all gonna come talk together or separate or?
Yeah, we're gonna kind of come up here together.
Okay. So with us today is Ms. May, and she earned her bachelor's in dietetics and a master's in human nutrition and food, and actually her major professor, both of these professionals, major professor Dr. ONeill, which will speak next. Ms. May is an extension associate and registered dietitian. She manages the FNET program, which is the USDA's Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program, and America on the Move. So you'll become intimately familiar, and she'll talk more about America on the Move with our fitness challenge. She's been with the LSU Ag Center since 2008. And then Ms. Holston West is due in
2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks. And she has also earned her bachelor's degree in dietetics and her master's in human nutrition and food here at LSU. She's also a registered dietitian. She is with the LSU Ag Center in the 4-H department, where she serves as the state director of the Smart Bodies program, which is a school-based childhood obesity prevention program. When we go over to Ag Magic, as my understanding that the body walk's going to be in the 4-H mini farm buildings. Okay, so Dr. Teresa and Ms. Poole should have talked about the body walk, where you walk in certain parts of the body. Okay. She has been with the Ag Center since 2004, and she's also the state coordinator of the 4-H Youth Development Healthy Living Mandate. So between the two, you have 10 minutes. Okay.
So I'm not waiting on a phone call, but I'm going to time myself just to make sure that I give Sandra enough time to talk. But as we were talking earlier, we were talking about extension. And again, one of my bosses who has retired always said that the Ag Center is the outreach arm of the LSU system. And so we take the research and put it into usable information that the community members can use, whether they're low income, whether they're professionals, whether they're educators. We take the information that may seem over their head, very scientifically based, and turn it into useful information and educational programs that they can use in their daily lives. One of the things that, or one of the newer things is Sandra and I are actually in what's called the Department of 4-H Youth and Family Development. So we used to be housed with the School of Human Ecology, Nutrition, but we've done some reorganization within the Ag Center, and so now we get to work with both 4-H Youth Development and Family Development. Both of us, in that capacity, work on our major initiative in this department, which is childhood obesity, which is my favorite, so I'm glad that that's the major initiative. One of the major childhood obesity programs of the Ag Center, which focuses on prevention, is called Smart Bodies. And I was actually hired with Smart Body funds when I first came to the LSU Ag Center, and actually after I graduated with my master's. Sandra will talk about federally funded programs, and mine is actually a private, or it's called Soft Money, which is from a corporation, Blue Cross. It's an insurance company. And it was a $1.8 million program that was funded in 2005. And it's a school-based nutrition education and physical activity program that actually goes to schools to teach children how to take charge of their health and make good food choices, be physically active, and actually understand the digestive process that goes on. Because a lot of people as adults will say, they'll eat whatever they want and worry about it later. But through Smart Bodies, we show them what is physically happening in their body when they choose to consume a diet that may be high fat, or low fiber, different things like that. Again, the program consists of 3 components, one of which y'all will see. It's the body walk at Ag Magic. Kids will turn into a food, magically turn into a food, and explore the different organs of the body. And they'll participate in activities like our food does in our body, so that they can see exactly what happens inside their body through the digestive process. It also consists of 2 other components, which are different curricula for the schools to use. Schools, y'all may not know this, have mandates where they are required to provide the children with a certain number of physical activity minutes per week, and they're actually supposed to provide school wellness policies and nutrition activities, but there's no funding with this mandate. And as a lot of our programs across the state, they're getting a lot of cuts where they don't even have a PE teacher that sees the children every day. So through Smart Bodies, we're giving them the tools that they need to meet these mandates. The program was funded again for $1.25 million until, what year is this? Until 2015, and so we hope to continue the funding there. The second thing I do is I'm the 4-H Youth Development Healthy Living Coordinator. Were any of y'all in 4-H? Good. Okay, so you probably, know a little bit about 4-H, or some of you do. One of their national mandates is called Healthy Living, which encompasses everything from nutrition to physical activity to mental health to safety. So I've kind of had to learn a few things along the way. But what my job is to do is to make sure that our agents, which are our professionals in all the parishes throughout the state, have the tools, resources, and education they need to provide the program and information to the communities. And so I'm kind of like a technical advisor, but also a program developer at the same time. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Sandra.
Okay. As Denise said, it's part of the 4-H youth and family development of Extension. And Extension means serving the community, going out into the community, and providing services, in our case, nutrition services to people in various audiences, general public, and particularly the program that I'm the program coordinator for a program called FNET, or Expanded Food Nutrition Education Program. And so what that program does, we actually have people across the state of Louisiana, in every corner of the state, who go out and teach nutrition education to low-income families. And those families could be moms with children. So moms with children, dads with children, grandparents with children, and we recruit those people, and we recruit the parents or the grandparents or the caregivers, and we also go into schools across the state, and we teach nutrition education to families who have limited resources. What that means is that people who may be out of work or working, people who don't make a whole lot of money, we want to make sure that they have the resources to be able to provide proper nutrition for their children and for themselves. So along with that, we do have another program that reaches all low-income families, not just families with children, but everyone, the elderly, the very young, the middle-aged, and all age levels and situations, and that's called the SNAP Ed program. And it's the supplemental nutrition,
Supplemental nutrition. I'm having a brain.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's similar to, we do serve the low income assistance program. So what the SNAP program does, it serves people who are on assistance, food assistance. So what we do is we also serve the general public as well, and that through our newsletters, and we have questions that come from the general public about food safety or food preservation, since gardening is a big deal right now because people are out of work, they don't have a lot of money, so they're going to gardening to provide food for their families. As Denise said about Smart Bodies, it's on money that's provided to the Ag Center from a private company, private industry, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Well, in our case, this is money that's funded through the federal government, the United States Department of Agriculture, the USDA. So our money we are given this money to provide assistance to people who are on low income. The second part of my job is I'm the coordinator for the America on the Move program, which I see you'll be getting pedometers and tracking charts this afternoon. So what the America on the Move program is, it's an additional program that we offer to extension programs such as SNAP Ed, FNAP, Smart Bodies, any program that goes through extension. And what it is, it's just a little additional thing that we offer our participants in these programs, any program. It doesn't matter what program, it doesn't have to be a nutrition program, it could be 4-H, whatever. But we offer this program to people who are involved in extension you'll see that when Bianca talks about it, what this program does is we ask that whoever participates in the program increase their steps by 2,000 steps a day. You've probably heard about the 10,000 steps a day. If you do 10,000 steps a day, then you'll improve your health. Well, what the America on the Move program does, we just say 2,000 steps. That's not a whole lot to ask of anyone. It's not really stretching it, but if you could just do 2,000 steps over every day, or even a course of the 6 to 8 week program, then you will see that your health will improve. You'll feel better. And over the course of a lifetime, we generally see about a 2 to 3 pound weight gain, which you may see along your lifetime that, you know, at the end when you get older, that you'll say, where did this extra weight come from? What is this doing here? And that's what we, you know, our activity level goes down as we get older at times. But, so this program, if we do 2,000 steps a day and reduce our calorie intake by 100 calories a day, then we can kind of head off that 2 to 3 pound weight gain over the course of a lifetime. So it's a very simple program, and I think Bianca's going to tell you, give you the information that you can track your steps every day and work at a goal every week to see if you can improve your steps each day or each week or by the end of the program. So our goal is, like Denise said, the core of our program in extension in 4-H family and youth development is childhood obesity prevention. And we start not only, you know, you think, well, you go to the child first, but it's really a whole network of people surrounding childhood obesity that we work with, and that includes everyone from youth in the schools to families of all incomes. So does anybody have any questions?
I don't know that I ever told you, when I was a 4-H agent in Northwest Iowa, I was responsible for youth FNET programming.
Were you?
Yes.
Okay, so you did FNET and 4-H.
All right, here's your
All
tour.
right, thank you.
Okay, our next presenter is Dr. ONeill. Dr. ONeill is, first of all, the class of 1941 alumni professor. She directs the dietetics, didactic dietetics program. Unfortunately, some of our nutrition students are in Math 1431 right now.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so, but we're taping, so they'll be able to see your presentation. I forgot that Dr. O'Neill not only has a PhD, of course, a bachelor's degree and an RD, but she also has an MPH, which is a master's in public health. And I've noticed recently that a couple of students that I thought were going into pre-med have changed their minds and now have went and got a master's in public health. So that might be something to put out there as you all think about your career tracks. Dr. O'Neill teaches the classes in medical nutrition therapy, the capstone course in nutrition sciences, contemporary topics in nutrition. She currently serves for the campus, the LSU campus, the director of the Quality Enhancement Plan to improve LSU. So if you have any ideas about how to improve academic experiences at LSU, you send them to me and I'll send them to her. Her research is focused on food availability and cost with Dr. Jeff Gillespie in the Department of Ag Economics. And what she's going to talk about today is her N. Haynes research, and that's a longitudinal study? No, cross-sectional study on the relationship between diet and health markers. So, Dr. O'Neill?
Thank you very much. I wonder if we could get some of these lights off. I think it should be.
I'm going to do the first bank. It'll be a little dark, but I'm sorry. We crossed in a different classroom, but obviously I didn't get it.
Okay, thank you very much for that introduction. I wrote it myself this morning. What I'm going to talk about is one of the things that I do research on, and that's looking at the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, or NHANES. This program is designed to collect data on the health and diet of adults and children in the U.S. It looks at free living adults and children older than 2 years old. So it doesn't look at institutionalized people, it doesn't look at people in the armed services, it doesn't look at people under 2 years of age. It is the only nationally representative survey of diet in the United States. It's what is called secondary data analysis, which means someone else collects the data. So you pay taxes, your parents pay taxes, you are actually funding the support of this study. Okay, what do? They collect diet information looking at something called 24-hour dietary recalls. Are there any nutrition majors in here? Excellent. A 24-hour dietary recall asks people what they had to eat yesterday. So, from that information, we can get all of these different nutrients. We can get 64 different nutrients from what they've had to eat. We can get any kind of food group we want. And these are still called the My Pyramid equivalent databases, despite the fact that we now have My Plate. We also know where the meals are eaten, where the food was eaten, where the food was obtained, so we can tell if somebody's eating fast food, school meals, whatever, and the time that it was eaten. What else does NHANES have? Well, NHANES has height and weight measurements from which we can calculate BMI and BMI percentiles for children, head circumference, waist circumference, and skin folds. So we can have anything we want that can look at the weight or adiposity of individuals. It also has physical activity. In addition, it collects blood pressure on people, bone scans, dental exams, eye exams. We have any kind of laboratory exam you can think of. We have lipid profiles, we have markers for diabetes, we have vitamins and minerals, anything that you can think of that you might want to measure in the blood, we have it in NHANES. So, what do we, as in the research group that I work with, look at? We look at the fact that diet and nutrition is a key factor that influences health and disease. This sounds like a no-brainer, and it sounds like something we've known forever. Well, up until 1977, which really wasn't all that long ago, we really didn't understand the relationship between health, diet, disease, and activity. Diet and nutrition are generally studied as independent factors contributing to health and disease outcomes. So, what can I look at? I can look at any kind of food, any kind of nutrient. I can look at alcohol. I can look at grains, juice, eggs, fats, cereals, added sugars. Why did I pick these? Anyone want to guess? These are what we do look at. And we can also look at food patterns like snacking patterns or fruit consumption, and different diseases. For example, obesity, heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, and anything that we want to look at. One thing that we do not look at is cancer. Okay, a sample of a research objective is, the objective of this research is to determine the association of 100% fruit juice consumption and nutrient intake, diet quality, and the prevalence of overweight or obesity in children. This happens to be a presentation that we gave looking at fruit juice consumption and diet quality in children, and we used NHANES data from 2003 to 2006. What do you think we found? So what? That is a very interesting thing, and I'm going to tell you why it is. Because a lot of people think that fruit juice is associated with a lot of added sugars. By definition, 100% fruit juice has no added sugar at all. It has sugar. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't have sugar, but it's naturally occurring fruit sugar. Now, if you're talking about fruit drinks, fruit cocktail mixes, things like that, fruit flavored drinks, then yes, they're going to have added sugar. But 100% fruit juice does not have added sugar. But we also found that children who drink fruit juice have a better diet quality and better nutrient intake than children who do not. What can you do with this kind of data? NHANES data is used in the development of the dietary guidelines. It's used in policy, for example, the National School Lunch and Breakfast Programs. It's used to design low-cost and modern food plans from the Center for Nutrition Promotion and Policy, the SNAP Ed program that Sandra May talked about, WIC, My Plate, and the Healthy Eating Index. Also involved in legislation. The dietary guidelines, although it is the policy, the nutrition policy for the United States, it is also legislated that the guidelines must be reviewed every 5 years. You don't have to come up with new guidelines every 5 years, but the ones in place must be reviewed. School lunch legislated. NHANES is the study that got the lead out of gasoline. Tells us about problems with smoking, trans fats, and is used for food labels. It's also used to look at population norms. This is a body mass index chart. A lot of the information for body mass index, or what constitutes obesity, is developed from NHANES studies. In addition, I don't know if any of you have ever seen the pediatric growth charts. Pediatric growth charts were determined from NHANES. NHANES, along with other data, have contributed to the dietary reference intakes in the United States. Let me go back just a minute here. We talked about fruit juice. When you talk about fruit juice, considering the kinds of food information that we get, the nutrient information that we get, all of the anthropometric information, physical activity, all of the lab values, what other kinds of studies could we do besides looking at fruit juice? I have a particular interest in fruit juice, which sounds interesting. But what other kinds of things could we look at? To let you know some of the things that we have looked at in my research group, we have looked at a variety of studies with fruit juice. We have also looked specifically at orange juice. We've looked at ready-to-eat cereals. We've looked at pre-sweetened ready-to-eat cereals versus non-pre-sweetened ready-to-eat cereals. You want to take a guess on that, the relationship to weight in children? We showed no relationship between children who ate pre-sweetened cereals and weight. We're looking at flavored milk, we look at fiber, we look at meat, we're looking at eggs. We're getting ready to write a study that's looking at mushrooms. So, the kinds of things and the kinds of foods, nutrients that you can look at are limited by your imagination on this one. Are there any questions about anything?
Matt has a question.
Yes?
Did y'all ever do research, like calorie intake based on eating normal fruits versus like through a fruit juice?
We haven't looked at that exactly. What we have shown is that children and adults who consume fruit juice eat more calories overall than children who don't. They also tend to eat more fruit than children who do not. So if people are drinking fruit juice, they're likely to eat more fruit. Some studies have also shown that they eat more vegetables. So that's a good thing. Yes?
What about differences between fruit juice and vegetables?
That's a good question.
The question was,
the difference between people who drink fruit juice and vegetable juices. One of the things about vegetable juices, so few people drink vegetable juice, although it is a personal favorite of mine, we have combined fruit and vegetable juice. So if it reads 100% fruit juice, it is 100% fruit juice or vegetable juice.
all right, well, thank you so much, Dr. O'Neill.
I think I'll need to stand up and stretch a minute. Come on, everybody stand up and stretch. Stand up and stretch while she's loading the slides. Oh, yes. Enough sitting, you have to stand. So we're getting evaluated by them, but not. Sign-in sheet. Where's the sign-in sheet? Gotcha. No, that's already on. All right, let's move on. Our next presenter is Dr. Turi. And Dr. Turi got her bachelor's degree at University of Missouri at Columbia. She got her master's degree
University
University of California.
University of California, Davis. So, Dr. Lampiela spoke first in food science extension. She was at UC Davis.
She was.
And remember, both of our entomologists that did our GMOs debate were at UC Davis. So big egg school. 45 minutes from where I grew up. Anyway, then she did her PhD at UNO. Her research is on nutrition intervention programs to promote healthful diets. And her most recent project has been with elementary school children, increasing their liking and preferences for fruits and vegetables.
Very good.
At LSU, she teaches those of you in the nutrition area, community public health, and nutrition and wellness class. So Dr. Turi.
Thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me, and I hope everybody had a good stretch. The reason, at the University of New Orleans, I moved from the produce section into exercise. So my PhD is actually in education, actually in the area of human performance and health promotion. So I'm a hybrid between nutrition and exercise. And therefore, I'm particularly interested in trying to help people eat better, and I'm also trying to change behaviors. So I have a slightly different twist, perhaps, than some of the other presentations here. So I want to tell you a little bit about my research promoting healthful diets for children through community-based interventions. As you know, we have a serious problem in this country. Over a third of our children are currently overweight or obese. And there are several risk factors for obesity in children, one of which is a poor diet. Of course, also we have lack of physical activity and or too much sedentary behavior. And then my current area of interest is media exposure. Does anybody have a bag of potato chips with them? Anybody have
Girl Scout cookies.
No, it has to be a bag of potato chips. Dr. Garrison, they're so clean when they came in. Dr. Barker, do you have a bag of potato chips? No? I wanted you to think about how potato chips sound. How do they sound? Crunchy, don't they? You know, they make potato chips particularly crunchy, bags particularly noisy, because they've discovered that if people open a noisy bag of potato chips, they perceive them as being fresher. So that's why your potato chip bags are so noisy, because they want you to perceive that what you're eating are fresh potato chips. The food environment is rich in these energy-dense foods, and that means many calories per portion. And I'm most interested in fruits and vegetables because they are not energy-dense. They're very beneficial food components, and there are some people who consume them are associated with having less risk for overweight and obesity. And I wanted to show you a little bit about the way research is presented. And I have it. This is a chart from a study we did here in East Baton Rouge Parish. And we looked at 4th and 5th graders in East Baton Rouge Parish. And this group of children all of them happen to be African American children. And what we found is if we asked them if they like fruits and vegetables, we had a list of 38 fruits and vegetables. And if they told us that those children who told us that they really liked a lot of fruits and vegetables, so if they had a high opinion of fruits and vegetables, as compared to the group of children who had a very low opinion of fruits and vegetables, we found that the children with the with a low opinion were 5.5 times more likely to be in the overweight or obese category. So that made us start thinking, well, what's going on? Well, if you look, American kids don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. Only about 26% of 6 to 11-year-olds, and only about 24% eat the right number, the recommended number of fruits, and only about 24% eat the number of vegetables. So what's going on? What about taste? Taste preference has been shown to be very predictive of actual food behavior. And what they say is that children like what they know, and they eat what they like. So we decided to set up a program to help them get over their neophobia, which is their fear of new foods. We wanted to give them some opportunity to taste new foods, and we wanted to give them a little social push, so to speak, around their peers and around other adults to try to influence them to taste fruits and vegetables. Because it's been shown that you can overcome neophobia, you can transform that liking, that disliking into liking with repeated experience tasting. It's worked for infants, it's worked for preschoolers, and there's been some evidence that it worked with school children. So we said that we want a grant to study this question, and we decided that we wanted to look at lower elementary, middle upper elementary, and upper elementary, and see if it made any difference as to how old the children were. Was a first grader going to be more willing to cooperate than a fifth grader, or was it going to be the third grader? And we wanted to see if indeed they would change from not liking to liking, and that we also wanted to see how many tastes it took. And we also wanted to see if after they tasted, was it maintained. So we had children in 4 West Baton Rouge schools. We evaluated with all first, third, and fifth graders. We had them both take a liking, no, we had those in the intervention school tasted. Those in the control school did not. And then the older kids filled out a second questionnaire that actually showed them a picture of fruits and vegetables and asked them how much they liked them. So those children in the 2 intervention schools tasted fruits and vegetables twice a week for 8 weeks. First week we tasted vegetables, the second week we tasted fruits, and back and forth for 8 weeks. Then we waited 2 months, and we came back with booster tasting for a couple of weeks. And then for the little ones, the first graders and the third graders that were still in the same school, we came back again a year later. While those in the control schools we gave them nice pretty posters to put in their cafeteria. And this is our little questionnaire that we used with the third graders. And every time they tasted, we tasted apricots, cantaloupe, peaches, and pears. They circled what they did with it. Did they chew it and swallow it? Did they spit it into their napkin? Or did they refuse to try? And if they swallowed it or if they spit it into their napkin, they at least tasted it. And at that point, then they said, well, what'd you think about it? They like it a lot, they liked it a little, and they did not like it. So that's how and every time they tasted, we paid attention to what they were doing. And this is what happened to the first, third, and fifth graders who began the intervention disliking the selected vegetables. So here it is at the beginning. They had a probability of liking. They absolutely did not like it. And the blue are the first graders, and the yellow are the third graders, and the red are the fifth graders. And you'll see that the first graders jumped ahead with carrots and stayed a little bit higher all along, but eventually the fifth graders caught up to them. And so the third graders paralleled what they were doing. There was no difference in peas, there was no difference in tomatoes or bell peppers as far as grades, but they all began to like the things they tasted. Here were the fruits. And look, boom, right away, up went the fruits. First taste, they were hooked. Right? These were sweetened apricots, canned peaches, and canned pears. Now the other thing we did was let me see, I can tell you that for carrots, peas, for carrots, tomatoes, and bell peppers, it took 5 tastes, and for the canned peas, it took 7. Are we finished? 2 minutes? Okay. Here was our questionnaire we used with visual preferences, and what happened was that when compared to the control group, the intervention group kids had higher preferences for new fruits, apricots, avocados, cantaloupe, kiwi, and mangoes, whereas the control group's children did not. Their self-confidence went up that they could indeed consume more fruits and vegetables, and they could eat them at school and they could eat them at home. So it seemed to work. Our conclusion, they improved their liking of all the tasted items, and it improved their preference for a variety of items, and increased their self-confidence to consume fruits and vegetables at school and at home. I want to leave you with this thought. Okay, everybody look up at me. Now, think about this. All right, let's think about baseball. This is for you as well, not just for my kids in my schools. How do you teach somebody to play baseball? What do you need? What do you have to do? Well, first of all, you have to provide the equipment. So what do? We provided them with fruits and vegetables to taste. And then you have to allow time to play. And one of the big things when it comes to nutrition is you have to limit conflicting tasks and games. And one of the big problems with getting kids to change what they eat is that they're marketed, highly palatable, high caloric foods in competition with plain things. So just like in baseball, you have to turn off the TV and take them out. You have to encourage them and be a cheerleader. Try it. Keep trying it. And finally, you have to teach them how to play. You have to teach them how to eat fruits and vegetables. And you have to give them the skills to help them play well. So my future research will be in the same area. I'm still going to try to teach kids to enjoy the flavor of fruits and vegetables, low energy density foods, but I'm also going to be paying attention to marketing and the influence of foods in the environment around it. And I just want to conclude this by saying that research is always teamwork. We had co-investigators, we had student researchers, we had participants, and we had funders. So as you think about working on research in the future, think about the team you would build to accomplish that task. All right, any questions?
Questions for Dr. Turi? I was so glad to hear that, because I knew you got the grant, but I hadn't had a chance to review that. That was very good.
Yes, just getting the final paperwork. And this is thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Carl.
So in our next presenter, we're going to move from nutrition and food consumption to gardening and food and vegetable production. So while Dr. Matzebacher cues up his PowerPoint show, he's a professor of horticulture and sustainable agriculture here at LSU and with the Ag Center. He has been a gardener his whole life and has promoted gardening since serving in Thailand as a Peace Corps volunteer, working with several schools on garden projects. He teaches vegetable crops, organic gardening, a study abroad class on sustainable agriculture, LSU in Thailand. And over the years, so many students have gone, and some of those students have actually been in the animal science area. So going to Thailand with Dr. Matzebacher. You usually go in the summertime, right?
So,
Okay.
I have a couple slides on.
Great, good. And we're doing study abroad in this class in a couple weeks. Good. He teaches a sustainability seminar course at LSU. Some of you I know are very interested in sustainability. And he's the faculty advisor to the Hill Farm Community Garden. His service learning projects have been devoted to supporting school and community gardens, food production for local kitchens, and food banks. His graduate students have researched the impact on hands-on science, a junior master gardener program, on elementary schools, as well as the impact of an 8-week gardening, cooking, entrepreneur, and leadership summer program. So without further ado, Dr. Matzebacher.
Okay. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today. Just going to go through 3 topics. Normally we spend a lot more time. I'm just going to give you an overview. If you have any questions or you want to get back to me, my information's here. It's really a pleasure to be here today. I'm going to talk about Slow Food Baton Rouge because I guess this is the class that can do volunteer hours too.
Yes.
In my spare time, I am on the board of Slow Food Baton Rouge, and just wanted you to be aware of the term sustainable agriculture, which, looking at farm profitability, environmental stewardship, and then talking about rural life, rural communities, and supporting farm families. And I see you're going down to the farmers market. Are they all going, or just a few?
Well, we already went
Oh.
on February 4th, and we're going to try to go again on Saturday.
Well, good. I used to work with the farmers market. A lot of my friends are farmers that are down there. And at our dinner, we have several of the farmers that if you go down there this weekend, they are also going to be on our tour that we're going to have. But I wanted you to be aware of local food systems. It's a big issue nationally, and we're seeing it here, supporting local farms and families. Instead of going to the grocery store and having the profits go to Kansas City, where Albertsons is based, or to California, having our monies reinvested into the community and supporting people who want to live out in the rural areas of the United States, and in particular our area. So what is local? That depends on who you talk to. The USDA says 400 miles. If you go to New Orleans to their farmers markets, they have some farmers that are from Mississippi that go there. Some people have a 100-mile rule. So it just depends. I wanted you to be aware of the term food shed. It's kind of a play on the term watershed, but food shed is where food comes from for a community. Have any of you ever heard the term locavore? The term locavore, anybody heard of that? That was coined in 2006. And food miles. Does anybody know what the average miles it takes for food to be produced and come to your house? Anybody? You know, there was a study done up in Iowa. It's like 1,500 or 2,000 miles. So, I mean, that is something to think about. And if you go down to the market, you can go visit with Brother and Janelle Glazier. They're 36 miles away. If you go down there on Saturday, this is not their farm, mind you. This is in California. Yeah, their farm is not like this, but you know, monoculture, lettuce. But the Glaziers, they'll harvest their product Friday afternoon and they'll bring it to the Breadstick Farmers Market, which is about 36 miles, versus lettuce from Salinas, California, that probably took a week or so to get to your grocery store. So just something to think about. And I wanted to briefly mention Slow Food Baton Rouge. I mentioned I'm on the board. These are the slogans that they have for, every organization has a slogan, right? You know, good food, clean food, fair food. So good food, it's delicious food, created with care from healthy plants and animals. And also celebrating the culture of food, celebrating the artistry of chefs. And that's something that here in Louisiana you can all appreciate that, right? And then nutritious food that's good for the planet, our bodies, and it's grown in a way that's environmentally sound is a critical aspect. And then the fair is that people should be getting a just wage, that the migrant workers should be getting a decent wage, that we shouldn't have children, you know, harvesting, they should be in school instead of out in the fields. So that's really, if you can go to the slowfoodusa.org is their website. And they have a number of campaigns. We aren't really involved with very many of them, and I'm going to talk about the opportunities if you want to volunteer for Slow Food. We have an event coming up. Last year we had 2 that actually volunteered. They were very helpful for us, and they had a lot of fun. I'll show a picture of one of them. But there's a whole host of activities, and we, as I mentioned, we're Slow Food Baton Rouge. Those of you that are on the internet or on Facebook, you can go see, we have a Facebook page, we also have a website, and we started in 2009, we're a 501c3 nonprofit. We're basically a volunteer organization. We brought in Fresh the movie onto this campus about 2 years ago. Whole Foods paid for that. We hold potlucks. I happen to have now 2 LSU graduates that graduated last May that are working for Slow Food as AmeriCorps volunteers. One is working in school and community gardens, and the other is working in local food systems. He is a business graduate, and she was a psychology major. But now they both want to get into farming, and they are running a farm. If you go to the farmer's market on Saturday, go to Robinson Farms, and you can meet with Allison and Grant. They will be there. And we also have a local food guide. Have any of you seen this? Actually, Grant worked on this. This basically has a list of the restaurants, bless you, list of the restaurants that are buying local food. It has the Breadstick Farmers Market, the places we can buy food here, food artisans and caterers that are supporting the local food system. One of the things that I'm working on now is a local food availability guide for fresh fruits and vegetables, so that when you go to the restaurant and they say, oh, lettuce is not available now. No, it is. I know where you can get it, and then we'll have a list of farmers. So we need to really, think about where our food comes from. And if you want to participate, we are having a Baton Rouge area farm tour and dinner in the field. It's on March the 18th. And this is the second time that we've done this. It's a fundraiser for us. And has anybody ever tried any of the Louisiana's Best products? They actually are graduates of the dairy school here. He is, I think, from the 80s. They are the only family that I know, I don't know, I'm mainly in horticulture, but they raise their own animals, milk their cows, and they make their own milk products. I think they're probably the only dairy here in Louisiana that does that. Even the Smiths, who used to be down there, they had somebody managing their herd. And this is another family we're having a tour, Yardbird Farms in Baker. So we're visiting four farms. The farm tour is from 11 to 5. The other one is The McCowan Farm, she is a retired veterinarian, and she has sheep. And Port Hudson Organic, anybody hear of them? They were in the paper. They are a CSA, Community Supported Agriculture Farm, up on Port Hudson Pride Road. So it's kind of up in that area, North Baton Rouge, off of 61. Dinner in the field. This is, have any of you ever eaten at Jubin's restaurant? Oh, only one or two of you? I actually can't afford to go to Jubin's very much. I used to go there once a year, but this is the head chef at Jubin's. Jamie is a very energetic young chef. He just started there about a year ago. He is one of the chefs that's involved with this dinner. And this was one of the volunteers we had last year helping us with the dinner at Oakland Plantation, which is in Gurley. So if you're interested, we're looking for volunteers for the farm tour. I do have some high school students who will be helping us too, but we're looking for assistance either at the farms if you want to do that, and also at Oakland Plantation, which is in Gurley, where the dinner starts at 6. We have a social hour between 5 and 6. On Saturday, we need some people to work with the chefs to actually prepare some of the food, which if you ever, we're hoping to have, we'll probably have 80 at this dinner. Last year we had about 45. And then Sunday, need some help with setup, and then for service, working with we have some waiters and waitresses that will be helping, you know, plating, running the food, serving food. So it was actually a lot of fun last year. I didn't have as much fun as I would have liked myself personally, but that's the way it goes. But I know everybody had a great time. We're looking forward to it again this year. I hope the weather is nice. So if you're interested, you can email slowfoodbr.org. That's the general email to the organization. This is my office number, my cell number. But we're going to be meeting for volunteers at MJ's Cafe. Has anybody been to MJ's? They serve lunch. She either buys local food or organic. She does a lot of soup and sandwiches. She's up Jefferson Highway near Government Street in that mall where what Paradise Records was. So that's where it's going to be on March the 12th. If you're interested, you can email me. If you want to just come on the tour, the tour is free, the social hour is free, and we're trying to raise money from the dinner itself. Any questions about that? Yes?
For volunteering, are they in shifts, or how would you volunteer?
I guess you're allowed to volunteer like 3 hours or 4 hours is what?
Yeah, remember you have to volunteer 1 hour at Egg Magic. So
Okay.
that's between you and Dr. Matsumoto.
But yeah, it depends on where you're going to go. If you want to, it would be good to be there for at least 3 hours, and then we actually have food too. If you only come for an hour, then you're not going to get much out of it anyway. But I had the times there for the dinner. If you just email me, let's see, if you wanted to work at the dinner, you know, from 5 to 9. We actually were finished like 8 or 8:30, and we have there's a company that's helping with the takedown, and so it'll be a little bit easier. So we don't actually have to take down all the stuff that's up there. Did it answer your question?
Yes.
It's like a 3 or 4. It takes about a half an hour, like 45 minutes just to get there. Last year, the 2 students actually carpooled together, and I think they were there for like 4 hours. And they had a pretty good time. They actually got job offers too, by 2 of the chefs. And I don't know if they were working for them or not, but I was like, so that's that. I wanted to mention another class or area, campus sustainability. It's kind of a class I started in 2009 with some other faculty because student interest in developing sustainability projects. And it's a service learning class. We work with Denise Newell Scribner.
She talked last week.
Okay, well great, so you all know all about that, unless you were sleeping, right? But it's student projects-based class. We develop projects, the students do themselves. I've been offering it every semester. I was going to teach like every other year, and then I've taught it for 3 semesters now in a row. Just to give you an idea of some of the projects. Campus composting, we started in 2009. Last fall, student government passed a resolution, kind of poked the university to get things going. LSU actually started composting about 3 weeks ago, which was an exciting thing to see students, you know, go, let's do it, come on, you know. I'm still working on a student farm. I have 4 students this semester that are putting together a proposal. We started talking about that in 2009. They're going to have a student organization. We're looking for some funding. We've done a green waste assessment. We're still dealing with LSU dining. There's a student next fall is going to do an assessment of local food and sustainable food practices with LSU dining. We're still negotiating what's going to happen with that. Had some students working on a potential bike share program, which is what I would like to see, but this semester nobody wanted to do that. Eco Reps, they developed or changed the LSU website for Denise, have a Facebook page. I know you're going to talk about Go Green. There's actually a Go Green guide that the students developed last fall with the class. And Denise has that on her website. Another student this semester is developing a Student Sustainability Council for LSU. It's kind of an exciting thing. LSU Bird Refuge, you all know where this is? Around the lake, CV? Nobody really knew what it was for. And so we have students that are going to look into maybe not developing it, but having a mission and having a purpose to that particular site. It's like 5 acres there.
If you ever walk the lakes, you'll see it, but can you get in there? I mean.
No, you can't. And that's the thing.
It's gated.
Can we open up a portion of it, have people come there, maybe have an educational display, but have it as a real refuge for birds, have bird houses. And so there's 2 students this semester that are following through on this. We met with Chancellor Martin. He's excited about that because he sees it every day. He sees the fence. Have some students that are doing a edible landscape for spring greening. They're going to put an edible landscape in, the first one on campus.
Where?
And it's going to be near the rec center and the Hill Farm.
Oh,
There's a
We're
little
working
piece
on,
there.
we're helping with that too.
Well, good. I'm glad. That's really nice. And looking at other schools and seeing what are other schools doing that LSU can do, and what are some of the easy things to do at LSU. You know, what other projects? Yeah, here's the Go Green guide that they developed last fall. So we mentioned about LSU in Thailand. Thailand's a wonderful place to go. I lived in Thailand about 4 years. I brought 4 groups of students there, usually small groups. Very interesting country. Basically, the study abroad class is a 3-week class to study agriculture in Thailand. You get 6 credit hours, junior or senior standing, or grad student standing because there are 3,000 or 4,000 level courses. And I'm scheduled to go probably in 2013 is the next time. I usually go every other year. So with that, I just gave you a brief overview, and I wanted to try to catch up on time, but I guess I didn't do that good a job, did I?
That's all right,
So-
very interesting.
So if anybody wants a local food guide,
Sure, pass them around.
I have a few here. Anybody?